Welcome to NTD. Good morning.
Here are today's top stories. President Trump arrives in Ankara, Turkey today for a NATO summit. The president also scheduled to meet with Ukraine's Volodymyr Zelensky, pushing for an end to the Russia-Ukraine war.
Prosecutors are laying out evidence they say links Tyler Robinson to the killing of Charlie Kirk as a preliminary hearing gets underway in Utah.
Democratic leaders are calling for Graham Platner to exit the Maine Senate race after an allegation of sexual assault. Comments from key Democrats and Platner's response to the allegations.
Hundreds of thousands lose power after severe thunderstorms bring damaging winds and heavy rain and widespread outages across parts of the U.S.
President Trump officially launching Trump accounts at the White House. New investment program aims to give millions of American children a financial head start.
Team USA is out of the World Cup after losing to Belgium. The last two spots in the quarterfinals are up for grabs today.
This is NTD Good Morning, live from our global headquarters in New York City. Here are Stephanie Cox and Carrie Dunst.
Good morning. Thanks for joining us.
Today's Tuesday, July 7th. You're watching NTD Good Morning. In today's top news, President Trump in Ankara, Turkey today for a NATO summit.
President departing Washington last night.
See, there he is. And senior administration officials, including Secretary of State Marco Rubio, Secretary of War Pete Hegseth, and Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent, traveled with the president.
And during the summit, President Trump is scheduled to meet with Turkish President Recep Erdogan. He will also meet with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky, as well as Syrian President Ahmad al-Sharaa.
Leaders from NATO's 32 member states are expected to review progress on defense spending commitments and burden-sharing goals.
Trump administration says European allies must take on a greater share of the alliance's security responsibilities. Before departing, President Trump answering reporters' questions about NATO and the war in Ukraine.
President Putin wants it to end. I will tell you that very strongly. A good call. And President Zelensky actually wants it to end now. And we're going to be going to NATO, and we're going to be talking about it. And I think we're going to get it. I think we're going to get it ended.
And joining us to discuss the latest on the NATO alliance and the upcoming summit in Ankara is a political and military analyst, Paul Davis, with the Institute of World Politics. Great to have you with us this morning. And just let's start with this relationship with Erdogan, President Trump expressing some positive sentiment toward him before he headed for that trip. But also there's been some headlines saying that President Trump is expected to say that he's ready to restart selling F-35 fighter jets to Turkey. Your thoughts on that?
Well, thank you for having me. Basically, the president does like President Erdogan. They do have a good personal relationship and have had for some years. The problem is that Erdogan does not have a good relationship with many in Congress. As far as restarting the F-35 engine production to or transfers to him, it's not going to be an easy move through Congress. Erdogan has shown a lot of resistance to both NATO and U.S. policies, has done things in the past that have been detrimental to Western interests. And this is one of the problems we're going to run into. But like I said, the president personally likes him and has a good relationship with him. The problem is going to be on the side of Congress.
Okay, let's look more broadly. Europe has committed more to NATO amid growing needs, but what specific commitments or shortfalls in European defense spending and capabilities will you be watching for at this summit?
Well, the question is can we get our NATO allies to increase their commitment to NATO as far as part of their GDP. Currently, they're at 2%. The president wants it to go to 5%, or at least somewhere along the line, a greater commitment to NATO spending. Many of the countries have resisted it, and 5% is a a great climb for many of them, but this is going to be the number one. And this is what we're going to watch out for is exactly where the NATO allies are willing to commit to. How much are they willing to commit to their GDP to defense spending?
Now, turning to the Russia-Ukraine conflict, considering President Trump's recent calls with the leaders of both Russia and Ukraine, along with the latest Russian attacks, do you expect any movement in negotiations, especially with your experience analyzing Soviet tactics? What stands out to you on that?
Well, Russia is always willing to say whatever you want you to hear them say. And this is a situation where we're looking at the same thing. Basically, if I go back to my old Soviet days, what we're looking at is Russia trying to come to some type of position where they can resupply, restock, and re-prepare for war. They have pretty much gotten the worst end of what's going on. And Russia itself is being hit terribly. I saw pictures of lines in the gas station, fist fights at the gas station, because there's no fuel for the cars. And this is one of the things they're looking at. I do not believe Putin wants anything else other than Russia to re-engage Ukraine, or for the United States to finally get tired and stop supporting, and for Europe, NATO, to stop supporting. And I think that's one of the reasons we had to tell NATO that Russia is on the brink, the border with Poland, to instigate this commitment from NATO. NATO has got to be very leery of Russia. But as far as Russia-Ukraine is concerned, Zelensky would love to see some type of end to this war. Putin would like to see a pause, only so much as he can resupply and restock.
Now, on China, NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte has warned that China's growing military capabilities and its role enabling Russia are an increasing concern for the alliance. Separately, the U.S. State Department and Pentagon have highlighted Beijing's rapid nuclear buildup and that recent missile test capable of reaching the continental U.S. How urgent is this threat, and what moves might the U.S. pursue at the summit to address it?
I think China is basically saber rattling. I don't know how urgent the requirement is going to be. I don't think that China right now is in a position to cause an all-out war with the United States. I don't think China is willing right now at this point to invade Taiwan, although that may change rapidly depending on how we deal with Ukraine and how we're dealing with Iran. If we're getting too tied up there, they may see a position where they are capable of changing the dynamic. But other than that, I think that we need to keep an eye on China. China is the number one adversary that we have, both militarily and economically, and China knows it. But we'll have to see what happens in the future. China's economy is shrinking a little bit. They're in a little bit of a problem. Militarily, they're strong, but whether they can sustain it in an all-out war, what the relationship would be at Taiwan, and I seriously doubt that they would actually fire a missile at the United States.
And we do see on screen here a live feed of Ankara, Turkey, and the president and his envoy are expecting the president to emerge at any given moment. But in the meantime, the president also is set to meet with Syria's president and has suggested that Syria could address the Hezbollah terror group issue there in Lebanon. What do you expect from that engagement and the U.S. monitoring of the Syrian government?
Well, Syria is no friend of Hezbollah. The Hezbollah has caused problems inside of Syria during the civil war there. They took sides with Assad, and so there's no love there. The question is are they in a position right now to help? We know that Lebanon wants Hezbollah out. We know that Israel wants Hezbollah destroyed. We know that most of the world wants Hezbollah gone. So the question is, and we also know that Lebanon right now militarily cannot do anything effective against Hezbollah. They're going to need help. And I think that's what the president's looking at for Syria. Can Syria then supply some of the help to get rid of Hezbollah? That would be a tremendous thing. And I also know that one of the other side discussions is probably going to be with France, because France has also offered to help in conjunction with Syria to monitor and attack Hezbollah.
Okay, and now Greenland, an autonomous territory of NATO member Denmark, is also emerging as a sensitive issue, kind of re-emerging. Its security, of course, is a U.S. priority amid Arctic concerns. What are the most pressing concerns on both sides of this kind of negotiation of sorts, and what's the most likely path to addressing them?
Well, I think, first off, we have to look back to the Truman administration, which is the first time the United States had shown an interest in taking some type of control over Greenland. The other problem is that we have the Danish requirement that they are a sovereign nation and that Greenland is part of their nation and that they are sovereign over it. And I think what's going to happen is that the United States is going to end up, which is what I thought had already happened, is that we're going to have a lot more autonomy to operate within Greenland, but Greenland will remain part of Denmark. And I think the Danish kingdom is going to retain sovereignty over Greenland, but give up a certain amount of autonomy to allow the U.S. forces to operate freely on Greenland.
And what other major developments will you be watching for at this summit?
Well, basically, I want to see how the president and the rest of the leadership deals with each other. I mean, we know that there's been some bumpy roads with the president and some of the NATO leaders, particularly at this point. A lot of eyes are on Italy's Meloni and how that's going to work out. We also know that we have a new government in England, the United Kingdom, and is that going to be any change in how they're dealing with the United States? And of course, how strong is Macron? He's had some political problems, so we have to look at that. And there's also a lot of upheaval in the German political scene. So all of this is going to be how can NATO politically pull itself together and show a united front, or is there going to be open hostility? That's what I'll be looking for.
And of course, the Russia-Ukraine war continues to be a main concern of the NATO alliance. How do you see that really, truly coming to an end?
Putin does. This is the main problem right now. As long as Putin is in control, he's not going to give up a lot of cold claims on Ukraine. And whether or not his political people and whether his military are going to continue to pour money and bodies into a fight that they obviously cannot win. Now, they cannot lose completely, but they cannot win. The big question to look at is what happens in Crimea. If Ukraine is somehow capable of taking Crimea back, they've already kind of pushed the Russians out of the Black Sea. Can they take Crimea back? If they take Crimea back, Putin's reign is over, and then there'll be an end to the war.
And we see President Trump saying that, the U.S. really needs to dedicate its resources elsewhere around the globe. In terms of what it needs to do in regards to Asia and the threat from China, you mentioned China's not ready to take Taiwan as it's wanted to do immediately, but that may change rapidly. What exactly may change, and what does the U.S. need to do, if anything more, to prepare for that?
Well, in Asia, the thing that the biggest country that concerns me more is North Korea. Okay. They are unstable. They do have missiles that can range. They do have nuclear weapons, and they are very rogue. So North Korea bothers me more than China, although China is pushing into it. We need to rededicate ourselves to having being able to fight, or at least be able to indicate that we can fight on two fronts, and then to push forward for an economic reemergence in the region, work with Japan, work with South Korea, work with the other nations in the area, and strengthen the economic ties that are binding them to the United States and cutting them off from China. This is what China looks more, they're trying more to take over economically than militarily. So this is the concern. But as I said before, the major concern I have in the Asia region is North Korea.
And what would a successful outcome overall for this particular NATO summit look like to you? What would be some of the markers, and what are some of the potential pitfalls here?
That we show a united front, and that's the first good sign. Of course, the pitfall is that we walk away and there's still the United States and other countries showing disregard for each other or fighting each other. And then the big thing is exactly how much commitment can we get from other NATO nations as far as financing the NATO forces. That would be the big one. Now, is it going to get to 5%? Probably not. But as long as it gets over 2%, then it's a win.
And we do see President Trump descending the stairs there, and we're expecting to see more of him speaking with the press shortly, and we'll be cutting to that soon. But continuing on here, drawing especially on your Cold War and current analysis, how has the nature of the alliance changed over time, and what adaptations do you think, if any, would be most urgent at this point in time for NATO to remain effective against all those threats that we've been speaking of?
Well, NATO has gone through its ups and downs. Obviously, in the beginning, when it first established itself against the Soviet Union and against the Warsaw Pact countries, it was strong, it was stable, it was united. Then what happened is the Cold War ended. And yay, we won. We didn't, but that's what a lot of people thought. And then there began to be a question as to exactly what was NATO's role. It became more of a political, economic organization than a military alliance. Then along comes Putin and Ukraine and forces us to reestablish it as a military alliance. But at that time, a lot of situation had changed. That the United States had pulled out a lot of Europe. Matter of fact, both bases I was stationed at in Germany are both gone. So this is one of the indicators that we have. And this is a problem. And the other problem is we saw Russia begin to move more toward a Western type of nation, a capitalist society. And then along comes Putin, and Putin changes it. So right now we are in a situation where NATO is in flux, continuing to be in flux. They don't know exactly who they are or what they are. And this is what we have to do. So the main thing, as I said, is the alliance has to be reestablished, restabilized, and everybody is a joint partner. Unfortunately, the biggest change and the biggest problem I see is that man walking next to the president.
Yeah.
Turkey has changed tremendously. They have turned more toward, they are an Islamic nation right now, for all intents and purposes. Erdogan is an Islamist, and he wants to continue pushing that way. So this is the problem we have with NATO and Turkey's alliance.
And we do see, so this is what looks like to be a kind of welcoming ceremony, as you mentioned, from Turkey's President Erdogan. And Erdogan has been said to have offered something or really offered his special welcome to President Trump, which President Trump has said was one of the reasons that he was in attendance today. What do you think Turkey has to offer Trump?
That's a very interesting question, and it's going to come to see what Turkey actually can offer. Are they going to offer to reestablish themselves as a full-on NATO member? That's about the only thing they can offer. Their economy is in the dumpsters. Their military is not what it used to be. I think the other thing that Turkey has to do is, years ago they switched their air defense missiles to the Russian S-400 series, and that had to be integrated to the NATO system, which required then NATO to give Russian technicians NATO information. I don't know how much that happened. and this is a problem. They have to recommit themselves to being NATO. And I think one of the things Erdogan may continue to push, although it's the lost cause, is to become part of the EU.
Okay. And what, if anything, would Ankara really have to give up if it really were to become a full member of NATO?
It would have to give up its assistance to many of the nations in the Middle East that are supporting terrorism. They are close to Iran. They have supported some of the jihadist situations. They're going to have to stop their attacks on Israel and threatening to attack Israel. So this is what Erdogan has to give up.
Well, it's been a great discussion with you this morning. Thank you so much for your insights, Paul Davis. Really appreciate your time.
Thank you for having me.
And as you saw, we have live coverage of President Trump arriving in Turkey for that NATO summit. We'll be having that for you very shortly.
Yes, that's right. And as well, prosecutors are laying out evidence that they say links Tyler Robinson to the killing of Charlie Kirk as a preliminary hearing gets underway in Utah. Stay with us for that.
Imagine a coffee that cares for your health. Expertly fermented with a 50 enzyme complex to enhance flavor and remove bitterness. Small batch roasted to a decadent medium dark, resulting in a brew that is gentle on digestion, low acid, and up to 90% less caffeine than regular coffee. Try America's first enzyme fermented coffee today.
This is how I keep my joints happy.
Omega XL is a powerful natural supplement backed by 40 years of clinical research. Take control of your pain, like Cynthia Bailey.
My knees in particular started giving me pain issues all the way back to my modeling days, from just running through airports, photo shoots. After taking Omega XL, I really started to notice how less stiff I was, especially my knees and my hip. Has Omega XL changed my life? Yes. I barely notice my joint pain anymore. Now I'm like literally sprinting through the airports. My secret is Omega XL.
Pick up the phone and call now to get this exclusive TV offer. Buy one Omega XL and we'll send you a second bottle absolutely free. You'll also get a free bottle of Vitamin XL D3. Buy one, get two free. A total value of over $115, all for just $49.95. You save more than 55% and shipping is free. Backed by a money-back guarantee and is not available in stores. Operators are standing by, so call now.
I think building kindness in children from a very young age is foundational to their growth, to building their character, to allow them to share with each other in a classroom and in a space that is safe, like in the Ganjin World platform.
I'm a New York State certified teacher. Currently, I teach in a public school in upstate New York. And I'm also a Ganjin World Campus channel creator.
I've been fortunate to use Ganjin World's Teachers Premium channel for the past 3 years, and it's been shaping my curriculum and teaching, both in the classroom setting and in our home school.
If children can learn to support each other from a very young age and encourage each other and help, it'll only strengthen the future of our society.
You can just assure yourself everything on Ganjin campus, on Ganjin World, it will be safe, it will be clean.
Sparked many positive changes in our students.
Ganjin Campus equips educators worldwide with powerful Teachers Premium channels and high-quality learning resources to help children learn and grow safely online. When you support one teacher, Ganjin World matches your support to help another. Support Ganjin Campus. Scan to learn more.
Welcome back to NTD Good Morning. I'm Kerry Dunst. The Federal Reserve Bank of Dallas releasing a new working paper correlating the illegal immigration surge between 21 and 24 during the Biden administration with an increase in housing costs. Joining us to discuss is Tim Doscher. He's executive director at Unleash Prosperity Now. Always great to see you, Tim. Appreciate you joining early. Your thoughts on this new report?
Well, look, this is a big question. And by the way, there is not going to be in history, when you look back at this, Carrie, you're going to see a few things in life. And one of them is Biden did one of the worst disservices to this country by opening that border. It was simple will. It wasn't a law change. It wasn't anything. Simple will to enforce border law, to let those millions and millions of illegal immigrants, criminals, gang members, all of these extremely dangerous people coming through the border and causing so many, not just a housing crisis, but a crisis that will reverberate through crime, through affordability, through everything else, Carrie. And it should never, ever, ever happen again. And by the way, we now know we don't need legislation to do it. It is simple political will for the next Democrat who is in office.
Yeah, the violence against women and children, perhaps the hardest to discuss. In coming back to this report, though, it also explores how the surge in illegal immigration actually disproportionately affected the working class in terms of depressed wage rates. Can you comment on how the open border may have more dramatically affected our working class?
Well, look, I mean, there's a problem we have in our country. One, we have all of these people coming in. Where do we put them? Where do we house them? That is a big deal, no question about it. Getting on social services, getting on food stamps, getting on all the sort of, the largesse that we have here to offer them. But then, like you said, we also have this wage issue. And one interesting thing that I always like to walk a line here is that, we have 8 million open jobs in this country. That is a problem because we have companies that want to grow, but we don't have people to take the jobs. And so what we've been saying is it may not actually be the fact that, illegal immigrants have come in, and they're taking these jobs that, other people don't want. What we say is that we probably should have a better system to serve the function, serve the needs of the workforce that we actually have here. Over the last 10 years, Carrie, half of all the new jobs that have been filled have been foreign-born workers. And yes, illegal immigration has been a part of that, but that has also been a growth prospect for the United States of America. So we actually do need more people to fill those 8 million open jobs that we have here. So yes, we want people to come in legally so we can actually give a fair wage to these people to be competitive with the people here in the United States of America. We don't want illegals here because then they are being paid under the table and they're being paid less than normal people would be paid for these jobs. So yes, it's a very, very tight rope to walk, but we don't want the blame to fall on legal immigration, Carrie. It's got to be legal to make this work.
Yeah, illustrative of your point, just yesterday, Sean Duffy highlighting the case of the illegal immigrant who came in and then a year later was able to get a commercial trucker's license out of Massachusetts and then killed a state trooper. I believe that death occurred in Pennsylvania. Just a tragedy. I do want to move on to what the solutions are. The past is the past and we have to move forward. Would lowering interest rates in some regards help to reverse the damage done in terms of the housing supply?
It might, but I don't think that the Fed is as powerful as maybe some in the administration would like it to be, because again, we lowered interest rates. In the months leading up to the election of 2024, with the hope that interest rates, the housing mortgage rates would go down. And guess what? They actually went up because banks factor in a lot more than just what the Fed funds rate is. And so what you need to do is you need to get the budget under control. You need to stop spending as much. You need to stop growing that debt and deficit in this country and making that dollar stable, making those prices stable. We got to unload that $6 trillion in that Fed book that we have there that Kevin Warsh has said he's going to be aggressive about getting rid of. That's how you lower interest rates. It's by getting your fiscal house in order more than any sort of trick at the Fed.
And as we finish up, the report, of course, offers some sour yet common sense observations, right, related to supply and demand in terms of housing, wage rate. As you reflect on the economy, we just, of course, celebrated America 250. What has you optimistic about the nation and the economy?
I think this red state versus blue state dynamic that we are seeing right now in America is really the thing that I'm optimistic about. I think with red states, look, if you want to find a house for under $200,000 to fit your family of four, you can move to Dayton, Ohio, where they have plenty of jobs. They've got plenty of skilled labor positions there. And you also don't have the housing regulation that you find in New York City and Washington, D.C., in San Francisco and Los Angeles and those coastal areas where they just make it impossible to build things. Carrie, think about what's happened right now in the Palisades where the fires were a year ago. No new houses have been built. Nothing has been approved. All the regulations are still intact. All of the heartache that people have had, they're just living in arrested development right now, literally arrested development right now because of government regulations, local regulation. Look, the federal government has a lot of bad stuff that they can do to fix themselves. But really what this comes down to, and what I'm optimistic about, is the red states that have said we are going to make housing a priority in our area by lowering regulation, lowering fees. We're not going to put the green gods, energy gods, climate gods above housing affordability. That is contrasting with New York, with California, with all these states that continue to drive people out because of their regulations. And that's the beauty of America, is we still have the freedom to move. We still have the freedom to vote with our feet.
Absolutely. Certainly a boon in Florida, Texas, Ohio, as you point out. Tim Doscher, always a pleasure. Thanks for joining.
Thanks, Gary.
And next, prosecutors have begun presenting evidence in the murder case of Turning Point USA founder Charlie Kirk.
They argue there is enough evidence for the accused gunman to stand trial. NTD's Daniel Monahan has more on the preliminary hearings and what to expect to last through this week of trial.
The hearing is giving the public its first detailed look at the prosecution's evidence. State District Judge Tony Graff Jr. will decide whether the aggravated murder case against 23-year-old Tyler Robinson should move forward to trial.
Robinson has not entered a plea and could face the death penalty if convicted.
A university police officer testified that he heard a single gunshot and saw Kirk collapse.
A lot of people were screaming, standing up, and starting to run in all different directions away from the center of the tent. I realized that the shot I heard was more of a rifle shot and not a pistol shot.
The officer worked to secure the scene as people fled in panic.
I decided now we need to contain the scene and help preserve as much evidence as we can. So I started pushing people off the grass, out of the courtyard area, because I knew that's where the crime scene was.
The officer told the court he later climbed onto the roof of the university's Lucy Center, where he described finding what appeared to be a sniper pad, including elbow, knee, and foot impressions in the gravel, along with marks indicating where a rifle had been placed. He said his body camera stopped recording when he was on the roof. He believes his battery died. Officers say surveillance video tied the suspect to the scene on the day of the shooting.
We were able to establish that Mr. Robinson had been on campus approximately 4 times throughout the day, twice before the shooting, the time of the shooting, and then after the shooting later in the evening into the early hours of the 11th.
Jurors also heard that surveillance video allegedly showed a man police identified as Robinson running across the roof before climbing down the building. Investigators testified they found a shoe print below the building, scratch marks on the wall, and later recovered a rifle and ammunition hidden in a nearby wooded area. Prosecutors say forensic testing found Robinson's DNA on the rifle, ammunition, and a towel. Messages on the cartridges in the rifle provided insight into a possible motive. The phrase on one cartridge referenced online furry and roleplay culture. Another read, "Hey fascist, catch." Robinson's mother previously told investigators that Robinson's political beliefs had been leaning to the left and, quote, becoming more pro-gay and trans rights oriented, according to the documents. Kirk's widow, Erica Kirk, attended the hearing with the victim's family. She says the family is deeply grateful for the support, prayers, and kindness, and asked for continued privacy as they grieve and the legal process moves forward.
The proceedings are scheduled to continue through Friday. Daniel Monahan, NTD News.
A possible shakeup in the race for a U.S. Senate seat in Maine. Democratic leaders are calling for Graham Platner to exit the race after an allegation of sexual assault.
Platner is the embattled Democratic nominee facing incumbent Senator Susan Collins, who's Republican. Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer and Senator Kirsten Gillibrand are now asking him to step down. Gillibrand chairs the Democratic Senatorial Campaign Committee. She called the allegations, quote, incredibly disturbing.
This comes as Platner denies a Politico report alleging he sexually assaulted a woman while he was intoxicated. The accusation was made by 41-year-old Maine resident Jenny Rassicott. According to Politico, the alleged incident took place 5 years ago while she was in a relationship with Platner.
Platner says he's now considering how to move forward with his campaign. In a video statement on X, he says, quote, any accusation of non-consensual behavior is categorically false.
Senator Ruben Gallego, who earlier supported Platner, is pulling back his endorsement, saying the allegations are troubling and deeply serious. Senator Elizabeth Warren also asking him to step aside, saying there can be no tolerance for sexual assault.
Maine's Democratic Party leadership is now also calling on Platner to withdraw, and the Senate Majority PAC announced it is redirecting its resources away from that race. And there is a lot at stake for Democrats in this particular race because Maine is a Senate seat that they are eyeing as must win in their efforts to take control of the Senate.
The deadline for candidates to drop out with time for the party to replace a nominee is July 13th.
That's right. Very soon, we're going to keep you updated on this rapidly developing story.
Next, an illegal immigrant truck driver is charged in the death of a Pennsylvania state trooper.
The Department of Homeland Security says the suspect entered the country illegally in 2024, and he received a commercial driver's license from Massachusetts a year later. This was the story I was discussing just earlier with Tim Doscher. NTD correspondent Jason Blair brings us more details on that.
He was a good man, and he was a good cop, and he was taken from us far too soon.
Pennsylvania State Trooper Michael Pahara Jr. died after he was hit by a truck on the side of Interstate 81 during a commercial vehicle inspection.
He had just moved back in with his folks because his mom is battling cancer and he wanted to be closer to her.
The Department of Homeland Security says the truck driver, 33-year-old Michael Bond, is an illegal immigrant from Haiti. Bond is charged with homicide by a vehicle, involuntary manslaughter, reckless driving, and other counts. He's being held on a $700,000 bail. Immigration and Customs Enforcement has lodged a detainer asking Pennsylvania officials not to release him. Acting Assistant Secretary of Homeland Security Lauren Biss said in a statement, this Haitian illegal alien was released into our country by the Biden administration, and the sanctuary state of Massachusetts gave him a commercial driver's license. Illegal aliens should not be driving trucks on American highways. Our hearts and prayers go out to his family. Former DHS Deputy Assistant Secretary Jonathan Fahey tells Fox that giving commercial driver's licenses to illegal immigrants is hazardous.
I think there's been about 17 of these fatal crashes just last year involving illegal aliens driving CDLs, and it really just shows how dangerous it is.
Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy posted, these senseless tragedies are why I am working my heart out to change the policies that encouraged illegal drivers, enabled shady truck schools, and drove down the wages for American truckers. Duffy and the Department of Transportation have been tightening restrictions on commercial driver's licenses throughout the nation. Crash suspect Michael Bond's next court date is July 15th. Reporting in Washington, D.C., Jason Blair, NTD News.
Thanks to Jason for that report. Next, severe thunderstorms across parts of the United States have knocked out power for hundreds of thousands of customers.
More than 373,000 homes and businesses were without electricity yesterday as the strong winds and the heavy rain and the storm damaged affect several regions of the U.S.
Pennsylvania was among the hardest hit states, with more than 50,000 outages reported. Michigan, Louisiana, and New Jersey also saw significant disruptions. First Energy reported nearly 60,000 customers without power, while DTE Energy had more than 55,000 outages.
DTE said its storm response teams were working now to restore service, with the company reporting more than 97% of customers had their power restored by yesterday evening. Utility crews continue repairs as some areas recover from the severe weather.
And this morning, over 225,000 customers are still without power.
PowerOutage.us reports most outages are in the mid-Atlantic states, as well as Michigan and Louisiana.
President Trump officially launches Trump Accounts, a new investment program aimed at giving millions of American children a financial head start.
And the White House says major companies are backing this effort. Here's more on the Trump Accounts.
So ring the bell, Mr. President.
President Trump officially launching the new Trump Accounts program with a first-of-its-kind ceremony inside the Oval Office. The president ringing a specially designed bell to simultaneously open trading at both the New York Stock Exchange and NASDAQ.
On Saturday, July 4th, our administration deposited one-time seed contributions of $1,000 each into the Trump accounts of over 500,000 American children.
Those born between 2025 and 2028 will be eligible for the $1,000 contribution. Family members, employers, and others can contribute up to $5,000 a year.
Children that are born without money, without any money, great parents, they can have everything, can be great, but they have no money. They can become very wealthy children at 18. Trump accounts are about giving every American child a stake in America's future.
The White House is also encouraging private companies and philanthropists to help grow the program.
The Trump Accounts is also a call to action by President Trump to philanthropists, to corporations and companies across America. We've already seen over 50 corporations, major companies, from Intel to Chipotle to other companies that have, to answer that call to action, are going to contribute to the Trump accounts of their employees.
Dell founder Michael Dell speaking alongside the president at the White House.
42 years ago, I started a company in my dorm room with $1,000. And today, every newborn American child will start their life with $1,000 invested in America's greatest companies. Susan and I didn't want the children that were born just before to be completely left out. So we are contributing $6.25 billion, $250 to 25 million eligible American children born between the ages of 2016 and 2024.
SpaceX President Gwynne Shotwell announcing she and her husband will donate over $300 million in company stock to help fund accounts for more than 2 million children. President Trump says the accounts are intended to promote financial literacy and entrepreneurship.
It's going to teach children to be entrepreneurial as opposed to the threat of communism that you're seeing a lot.
Speaking later at a White House luncheon, the president said every newborn will now have an opportunity to participate in the market from day one.
With Trump accounts, every newborn child will be invested in the stock market. So they're going to be watching. They're going to watch their account grow. They're going to watch the country grow. They're going to be reading the newspapers. They'll want to go to the financial pages.
The president says the program is meant to help reverse years of economic hardship for American families.
For years, Washington politicians have left our children with nothing but debt, nothing but problems. Now, with the help of so many of you here today, we're jumpstarting financial freedom for young Americans and helping them to build the future they deserve.
Meanwhile, President Trump says Walmart has agreed to lower prices on a range of products after a request from his administration tied to the America's 250th anniversary. Walmart says the price of its ground beef rolls will drop about 12% from $6.74 to $5.94 per pound. President Trump says he's also pushing for lower gasoline prices, arguing falling crude oil costs should translate into savings at the pump.
Every summer, parents worry about their kids getting too much out of the learning mindset.
That's right. It can be hard to get them back into it when school begins in the fall, but our next guest has advice on building a culture of curiosity and learning live at home.
And the USA is out of the FIFA World Cup after a 4-1 loss to Belgium. And Messi and Mo Salah play for one of the last two quarterfinal spots today.
Getting prescription glasses from Select Specs is easier than you might think. Select your frames from our £6 range in-house brands or our extensive designer collections. Then enter, upload or email your latest prescription and our website will analyze it and help you select the best lenses and options to suit you. Click to place the order and your new Select Specs glasses are delivered right to your door. Ordering your prescription glasses is as easy as 1, 2, C with Select Specs at selectspecs.com.
Are you sitting at home living in pain? Maybe it's in your hands, maybe your back or your hips. The good news is you don't need to live in pain. Why? Because there is Omega XL, a one-of-a-kind, natural, powerful joint relief supplement created from the green lip mussels of New Zealand. Drug-free, non-habit forming. It's small, easy to swallow, and it's backed by more than 40 years of clinical research. If you're experiencing daily aches and pains due to aging and overuse, try Omega XL. Just ask anybody who uses it. The results are undeniable.
I had a lot of joint pain, and that slowed me down.
I had considerable pain in my back.
Really felt the pain. I mean, in my ankles and in my heels.
I'm telling you about something that's gonna change your life. It has revived me.
This works.
I'm not a prisoner anymore to my pain.
As I was getting older, my joints started to feel that wear and tear. But then I tried Omega XL, and it changed my life. Today I'm here at my ranch exercising some of my polo ponies. So as you get older, it gets tougher. I was starting to suffer some of that business, and then I ran into somebody who said, look, you should try Omega XL. And look what it's done. I feel better than I felt in the last 30 years. And Omega XL gave me the ability to get back in the saddle. It works great. If you're in pain, I want you to know that there is real hope out there. I'm living proof. See the difference it can make in your life, just like it did in mine.
Call now or order online to receive our special TV offer. Buy 1 bottle of Omega XL and get a second free. Plus, we'll also include a free bottle of Vitamin XL D3. 2 free bottles for the price of 1 bottle of Omega XL. A total value of $115. You pay only $49.95 and it ships free. Plus, you get a money-back guarantee. Buy 1, get 2 free. Call or go online right now.
Kids love it. Parents trust it. Obviously. Explore GJW Plus Kids Series and Gone Campus courses led by expert educators. This is spectacular. Children will learn values like respect, responsibility, and knowledge in language, science, and more. Wow. All while having fun. Perfect. Subscribe today at GJW Plus Kids, where learning meets fun.
Welcome back. Team USA's World Cup run is over.
That's right. Unfortunately, the U.S. lost 4-1 to Belgium in the round of 16 in Seattle.
Belgium taking the early lead before Malik Tillman tied the game on a penalty kick. But Belgium restoring its lead just 2 minutes later.
Belgium added another goal after a defensive error by the USA, then later again scoring a 4th time right at the end of the game, and that very much sealed the victory.
After the match, Team USA's head coach said Belgium was the better team, adding that he was the principal person responsible for the defeat.
Belgium has now won 9 straight matches against the U.S., and the Belgians now advancing to face Spain in the quarterfinals. The loss also means that all 3 World Cup host nations have now been eliminated from the tournament. American fans reacting to the loss.
It's just very emotional. You know, when we scored the goal and tied it, I'm not going to lie, man. I had a little tear in my eye. I'm like, okay, we can do this. But, you know, Belgium showed up. They played a better game plan than we did.
We had an awesome tournament, and today we just did not bring it. Belgium was the better team, and yeah, it was pretty clear as we made it into the second half that we weren't going to pull it out.
We're very excited, I think, boys. Yeah. Very excited to be rooting for the USA. The vibe inside of Philly has been amazing this entire season, this entire tournament. We have been to Croatia's 100-meter flag parade. We've been to the Curacao Blue Wave Parade. We've celebrated France. We've celebrated about any team that played here over the course, and it was a lovely time hosting other countries. We've had an absolutely wonderful time at FIFA.
Portugal also getting knocked out of the World Cup after losing 1-0 to Spain. what was likely Cristiano Ronaldo's final appearance for the national team, ending in tears.
Yeah, 2 final spots now remain in the quarterfinals, and that will be decided today. The defending champions Argentina, along with Lionel Messi, they face Egypt in Atlanta. That kickoff is at 12 p.m., high noon Eastern time. Meanwhile, Argentina has won all 4 of its matches so far, and Lionel Messi, he has 7 of the team's 11 goals in the tournament. He is now the all-time World Cup top scorer. He's also in the lead for the Golden Boot, which is awarded to the player who scores the most goals in tournament play.
Now, Egypt is appearing in the World Cup round of 16 for the first time in its history. Mohamed Salah playing in what could be his final World Cup. And the second and final round of 16 match features Switzerland against Colombia in Vancouver. Kickoff today at 4 p.m. Eastern.
Yeah, a bunch of heartbreaks yesterday. Clearly, the U.S. really getting excited about our progress and momentum, but we haven't really been able to crack into the quarterfinal. I think we've done it once in the last 30 years. And on the Portugal side, you know, in the match of the Iberian Peninsula, Cristiano Ronaldo, he's played in 6 World Cups, and it was tied 0-0 going into the end of that game. I watched it with our sports correspondent, Dave Martin, and we were pulling for Ronaldo, but they were just outgunned. One play made the difference there for Spain. It was a beautiful gap goal where it was a sort of like a give and go. But so for those rooting for the home team or for the favorite with Ronaldo, a little bit of a disappointing day. But we have Lionel Messi and Argentina playing, and I think if nothing else, U.S. soccer keeps growing with each passing World Cup and Olympics, though the U.S. just not quite able to break into that elite tier with the Europeans in the South America.
On its way. Lots of good times along the way as well. Lots of good games.
Yeah, we're going to discuss all that in the next hour with Mike Leon, so you're not going to want to miss that.
True. All right. Next up, every summer, parents worry about the summer slide. But Lina Martinez-Kalilian, Chief Academic Officer at Fusion Academy, says the biggest mistake is trying to recreate school at home. And she's here to offer some great tips. And I believe we have Danny Peliquin with us today. Thank you so much, Danny. Now, your organization, Fusion Academy, provides personalized school to help students emotionally, socially, and academically unlock their full potential. So I'm very curious about how that potential can be nurtured even when not at school. So let's start with, though, what's the biggest mistake that you think parents are making when trying to prevent summer learning loss?
Thank you so much, and good morning. The biggest mistake that parents can make is trying to overschedule their students or trying to recreate school at home. This is a mistake because students need a break, they need a rest, and summer is an excellent opportunity to get them excited and curious about the world around them in a way that is not as structured, but just as meaningful, if not even a little bit more meaningful than what they might experience in their classroom.
But do kids really lose academic skills over the summer, or is this kind of summer slide thing overblown, do you think?
It's a great question. And summer slide is very real. What you said is so poignant. They do lose skills. A lot of times parents will focus on the knowledge that a student might lose and use flashcards or workbooks, but really what we're concerned about is the skills and the student's ability to problem solve, to reason, to think critically and creatively are things that do slide over the summer, especially since COVID learning loss.
Okay, so given that, what are some simple everyday ways that parents can keep their children learning, but without making summer feel like school?
That's a great question. People can help their student continue to learn through the summer by engaging in reading every single day. Just a little bit is really wonderful. Bringing them to the library, having them check out museum passes and visit parks, but also getting them curious about things that they're already interested in. If they're interested in video games, have them sit down and ask them, what are you playing? Can you create a character for me? What would that character look like? And asking them deeper questions about the world around them. When you go to the grocery store, where do these carrots come from? How might this can of carrots be bigger or larger than this can? By what difference? just simple ways that they can engage in real world examples that brings them more curiosity about the world around them and connects what they were learning in school to what they're going to be learning outside of school.
Oh, I love that some of your examples really start with where the kid is at, you know, what they're looking at, what they're interested in, and go from there. But how else can parents motivate, say, reluctant learners or even children with learning differences during these summer months?
Parents can really engage students with learning differences or who are reluctant learners by asking deeper questions just in their everyday life. So if you're traveling through your town, ask your student, hey, I wonder, what's the history of this town? Where does this name come from? And by modeling what curiosity looks like and what confidence looks like in trying to learn and understand, they're creating a pathway for their students and for their kids, and creating also what we call sentence stems that the student can then finish so that they don't need to come up with an idea on their own. And that really helps reluctant learners who don't know where to start, and students with learning differences who may get confused on how to engage with some problem solving and explore the world around them.
Now, curiosity might seem like a kind of nice add-on when it comes to learning. There's a lot of ways to learn things. You just don't have the curiosity to learn. But why is curiosity and confidence just as important as academics when you're preparing your kids for the new school year?
That's such an excellent question. And curiosity and confidence are just as important. Some might say even more important, because it provides the student with a growth mindset, perseverance, and resilience that allows them to get through challenges in the new school year. And we don't know what the new school year holds, but if we can ensure that we are helping them grow their skills, we're getting them to interact with the world around them, we're getting them curious about the things that they're already interested in, and they're building habits in really meaningfully but not overstructured with everyday reading, we can ensure that they're going to be successful in the school year.
And lastly, any tips for parents in preparing themselves, say, to have that kind of curiosity, to be able to lead with that, to have the inner resources to teach their kids along the way while they're on vacation?
Oh, that question just hits my heart. I would say we can prepare parents by remembering to look at the world like we're kids and engage with it in a way that is joyful, exciting, and with new wonder. It's so wonderful to be a parent and get that opportunity again to wonder about why the sky looks this way, or what those stars are, or how far away we are from the next planet. And getting to live through that with your student over the summer through that curiosity allows us to be kids again. So don't over schedule, don't over correct and try to bring in workbooks and flashcards. Just be the curious person that you were when you were younger, and you still are today.
Beautiful. Thank you so much for your insights and your time this morning, Danny Peliquin.
Thank you so much.
Such timely advice. This time can be a very joyful but also a stressful time for parents. Anxiety of, are they sliding back? Will the things I'm doing now hurt them in the fall when they go back to school? So good observations there, good tips on how to balance those two competing interests.
Great discussion.
All right, we're going to jump to a quick break. Stay with us. More on NTD Good Morning coming up.
There's cultures that have been lost, but this culture hasn't been. The artist is showing us our sense of who we are, where we came from. You look at his hat. His hat is knitted probably by a man, because a man traditionally knitted the hats. That hat tells you the story of who this person is, what his place in the culture is, the animals around him. Everything's all contained in the messages in the hat. And the tool that he's carrying over his shoulder. This is a centuries-old tool that has been able to rework the mountains. Those traditions are invaluable, and if we don't honor those traditions, then we're rootless. The artist is showing us the value of maintaining our culture and respecting our culture.
Here you go.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Welcome to NTD Good Morning.
Here are today's top stories. President Trump just arrived in Ankara, Turkey today for a NATO summit. The president scheduled to meet with Ukraine's Volodymyr Zelensky, pushing for an end to the Russia-Ukraine war.
Prosecutors are laying out evidence they say links Tyler Robinson to the killing of Charlie Kirk as a preliminary hearing gets underway in Utah.
Democratic leaders are calling for Graham Platner to exit the Maine Senate race after an allegation of sexual assault. Comments from key Democrats and Platner's response to the allegations.
Hundreds of thousands lose power after severe thunderstorms bring damaging winds, heavy rain, and widespread outages across parts of the U.S.
President Trump officially launching Trump accounts at the White House, the new investment program aiming to give millions of American children a financial head start.
And the U.S. soccer team's magical run came to an end last night with a 4-1 loss to an inspired Belgian team. Plus, Cristiano Ronaldo's last World Cup game with Portugal losing to Spain. Mike Leon will join us in studio to break it all down.
This is NTD Good Morning. Live from our global headquarters in New York City, here are Stephanie Cox and Carrie Dunst.
Good morning. Thank you for joining us.
Today's Tuesday, July 7th. You're watching NTD Good Morning. In today's top news, President Trump has landed in Ankara, Turkey, just moments ago for the NATO summit. He was greeted by Turkey's President Recep Erdogan, and we're expecting the ceremony to happen any moment.
Yeah, that's right. You can see there quite a welcome by the Turkish president, rolling out the proverbial blue carpet, not the red carpet, but a beautiful military formation. He was receiving him right at the bottom of the stairs when he came off. Yeah. President Trump, of course, taking essentially a red eye, flying overnight, getting his rest and sleep right there on Air Force One, on the new Air Force One, we should say. But clearly, these are high-stakes meetings happening there in Turkey. Of course, the Russia-Ukraine war at the top of the agenda, but also the president, going back to 2016, he was very early on saying NATO members must commit the amount that was enshrined in the NATO membership. It's supposed to be 5% of GDP. At that point, most countries weren't even spending 2%. They're now pledging increased defense budgets. Doesn't look like they'll get to that 5% mark, but
this will be a time for assessing how far each country has come.
Indeed.
And what they're willing to promise.
Yeah, Article 5, of course, that if one nation is attacked, all nations must support it. that, of course, not invoked because the U.S. Did a sort of premeditated strike to reduce Iran's nuclear capacity. But the president, very frustrated, as Rebecca Grant shared with us yesterday, that none of the European allies came to help the U.S. in that military exercise, which really Europe much more in range of Iran ballistic missiles than the U.S. So President Trump was frustrated with that. He even commented that if it wasn't being hosted in Turkey, that he would not have gone to the meeting. Very much frustrated with the NATO members, but some of it, of course, the NATO membership, very important to the U.S., part of his art of the deal, trying to get the NATO members to take on more of their own defense needs.
Meantime, the U.S. is undertaking an ongoing review of all of their assets in Europe, and that may alter. After that review takes place, it may downgrade its presence there. That's a possibility, but President Trump is continuing to speak with the leaders of both Russia and Ukraine, and he's sounding quite optimistic. We're going to see where that goes, but at least speaking with Zelensky may adjust some of the terms of a possible negotiation here. We'll have to wait and see on that front as well.
That's right. And also, we're learning that the president is traveling with senior members of his cabinet. We have Secretary of State, of course, Marco Rubio at this event, Pete Hegseth, Secretary of War, and Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent. The Treasury Secretary has really been elevated in this administration, I feel like, more than any other. The economic fury, such a big part of the campaign to neutralize Iran's capacity to wage war, the economic element. But the leaders from NATO's 32 member states are all expected to review the progress on those defense spending commitments. So we'll have to see what comes out of these talks. As I said, Dr. Rebecca Grant joined us yesterday sharing her analysis, and she said that the president really does have a packed agenda. In addition to these meetings with the NATO members, he is going to have a one-on-one with President Zelensky, as well as with al-Shara from Syria, the president wanting him to take more of a role in helping secure peace in Lebanon with Hezbollah. So much really at stake with these 2 to 3 day meetings that are happening in Turkey.
Yeah, and the U.S. really looking to work on where it allocates its resources all around the world. Of course, as you can see, with continuing to negotiate with Iran on creating stable peace right there in the Middle East. We'll have to see what this new government of Syria does with those talks and whether it is willing to step in and somehow help out with this terrorist group in Lebanon, which, as we heard earlier, and it does seem evident that the Lebanese government hasn't been able to tamp down on the violence there, and it does continue to be a threat to Israel, the only democratic nation within, this stronghold and a strong ally of the U.S. within the Middle East. So that's important, even though NATO is the main focus. It's such a huge focus as well, even while in Europe right now. And continuing on, we see a lot coming today. I believe a meeting with Erdogan will be up first.
And in that meeting, potentially, President Trump has foreshadowed that they might rejoin the F-35 fighter jet program that would switch Turkey over to U.S.-made military products. The goal, of course, getting them off those Russian-made products as they, take a more active role in NATO. It would be obviously odd to have them with all types of Russian gear when the whole point of NATO is really to defend against the Russian threat.
I don't think Trump would allow it, because that was the reason, or one of the coinciding events that stopped that program with Turkey in the beginning when that happened. So we do have President Trump being about to meet with Erdogan, and he is, as we've been saying, expected to go to that very soon, and we'll be keeping you updated as that happens. Meanwhile, NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte is warning that China's growing military capabilities are becoming an increasing concern for the alliance.
Yeah, that's right. His comments come after Beijing launched what U.S. officials say was an intercontinental range ballistic missile from a submarine, and that went into the Pacific.
We cannot be naive about China. You know this. And this is why we have this close cooperation. Because the theaters are getting more and more intertwined, connected. What happens in the Pacific is relevant to what is happening in the transatlantic. And we see it also in the war with Ukraine, where China, North Korea, and Iran are key enablers of Russia's unprovoked war of aggression against Ukraine.
The U.S. State Department says it monitored China's launch of the unarmed missile, warning that Beijing's rapid nuclear weapons buildup is a growing concern to the region and the world. Chinese state media cited a military expert saying it was likely the JL-3, the country's most advanced submarine-launched ballistic missile. The Pentagon says that missile is capable of reaching the continental U.S. from Chinese coastal waters.
Japan, Australia, New Zealand, and Taiwan all criticized the test, with Taiwan calling it an attempt to intimidate the international community.
To discuss the latest on the NATO alliance and the upcoming summit in Ankara, I spoke with Paul Davis. He's a political and military analyst with the Institute of World Politics. I asked him what he's looking for during the summit. Take a look.
Basically, the president does like President Erdogan. They do have a good personal relationship and have had for some years. The problem is that Erdogan does not have a good relationship with many in Congress. As far as restarting the F-35 engine production or transfers to him, it's not going to be an easy move through Congress. Erdogan has shown a lot of resistance to both NATO and U.S. policies, has done things in the past that have been detrimental to Western interests, and this is one of the problems we're going to run into. But like I said, the president personally likes him and has a good relationship with him. The problem is going to be on the side of Congress.
Okay, let's look more broadly. Europe has committed more to NATO amid growing needs, but what specific commitments or shortfalls in European defense spending and capabilities will you be watching for at this summit?
Well, the question is can we get our NATO allies to increase their commitment to NATO as far as part of their GDP? Currently, they're at 2%. The president wants it to go to 5%, or at least somewhere along the line, a greater commitment to NATO spending. Many of the countries have resisted it, and 5% is a great climb for many of them. But this is going to be the number one, and this is what we're going to watch out for is exactly where the NATO allies are willing to commit to. How much are they willing to commit to their GDP to defense spending?
The president also is set to meet with Syria's president and has suggested that Syria could address the Hezbollah terror group issue there in Lebanon. What do you expect from that engagement and the U.S. monitoring of the Syrian government?
Well, Syria is no friend of Hezbollah. The Hezbollah has caused problems inside of Syria during the civil war there. They took sides with Assad, and so there's no love there. The question is are they in a position right now to help? We know that Lebanon wants Hezbollah out. We know that Israel wants Hezbollah destroyed. We know that most of the world wants Hezbollah gone. So the question is, and we also know that Lebanon right now militarily cannot do anything effective against Hezbollah. They're going to need help. And I think that's what the president's looking at for Syria. Can Syria then supply some of the help to get rid of Hezbollah? That would be a tremendous thing. And I also know that one of the other side discussions is probably going to be with France, because France has also offered to help in conjunction with Syria to monitor and attack Hezbollah.
And what other major developments will you be watching for at this summit?
Well, basically, I want to see how the president and the rest of the leadership deals with each other. I mean, we know that there's been some bumpy roads with the president and some of the NATO leaders, particularly at this point. A lot of eyes are on Italy's Meloni, and how that's going to work out. We also know that we have a new government in England, the United Kingdom, and is that going to be any change in how they're dealing with the United States? And of course, how strong is Mark Cohn? He's had some political problems, so we have to look at that. And there's also a lot of upheaval in the German political scene. So all of this is going to be how can NATO politically pull itself together and show a united front, or is there going to be open hostility? That's what I'll be looking for.
Well, it's been a great discussion with you this morning. Thank you so much for your insights. Paul Davis, really appreciate your time.
Thank you for having me.
And there you have it, just speaking there about President Trump in Turkey, and we'll be keeping you updated as more comes out. He's expected to speak to the press at some point this morning as well.
That's right. He was greeted, of course, by Turkey's President Erdogan, and he'll be meeting with President Zelensky and Syria's new leader on the sidelines as well. But what's on the agenda, and what could it mean for the alliance and the war in the Ukraine? Well, NTD's Iris Tao joins us now. She has the greeting ceremonies from President Trump at the presidential complex. Hello, Iris.
So President Trump is here in the Turkish capital Ankara for a two-day NATO summit. He's meeting first with Turkish President Erdogan, whom he calls a close friend. He's also joining other leaders of the military alliance later for a dinner on Tuesday night. Meantime, last year when he was at NATO, he got what he wanted, with allies agreeing to step up their defense spending to 5% of their GDP. And this year, White House officials tell us that the president's goal will be to make sure that allies actually enforce their vow by making this a binding commitment rather than just a goal. Now, NATO leaders here are expected to unveil arms deals that's worth tens of billions of dollars, and a NATO Secretary General praising President Trump, calling him extremely forceful, while saying this about the alliance's spending on its defense. Watch.
1 year ago in The Hague, allies committed to invest a lot more in defense. 5% of GDP by 2035. And we are already making remarkable progress. And they agreed to ramp up defense production and innovation. And here we are now, 1 year later in Ankara, already delivering results. Throughout the day, allies and industry from both sides of the Atlantic will reveal new major projects and sign contracts worth billions, literally billions of dollars.
Meanwhile, this NATO summit also comes amid the conflict in Iran. Just last week, the president was again criticizing NATO, saying that the U.S. spends more on NATO than any other country, but did not get the benefit of doing so. Now, U.S. officials also tell us that the president remains disappointed in some allies' resistance in letting U.S. forces use their bases in their countries during the conflict in Iran, and also for some political statements made by some of these leaders criticizing U.S. strikes targeting Iran. Meanwhile, aside from Iran, the president is also expected to discuss Ukraine, where, of course, he already talked to the Ukrainian president as well as the Russian president just before coming here. Here's what he said about what he's expected to do after getting here. Watch.
President Putin wants it to end. I will tell you that very strongly. A good call. And President Zelensky actually wants it to end now. And we're going to be going to NATO, and we're going to be talking about it. And I think we're going to get it. I think we're going to get it ended. It's been a terrible situation. Think of this: 25,000 people 2 months ago. 25,000 people were killed 1 month.
And on Wednesday, the president is meeting with the presidents of both Ukraine as well as Syria before wrapping up his trip with a press conference here in Ankara. Reporting from Ankara, Turkey, Iris Tao, NTD News.
Thank you, Iris. And coming up, prosecutors are laying out evidence they say links Tyler Robinson to the killing of Charlie Kirk as a preliminary hearing gets underway in Utah.
Are you sitting at home living in pain? Maybe it's in your hands, maybe your back or your hips. The good news is you don't need to live in pain. Why? Because there is Omega XL. A one-of-a-kind, natural, powerful joint relief supplement created from the green lip mussels of New Zealand. Drug-free, non-habit forming. It's small, easy to swallow, and it's backed by more than 40 years of clinical research. If you're experiencing daily aches and pains due to aging and overuse, try Omega XL. Just ask anybody who uses it. The results are undeniable.
I had a lot of joint pain, and that slowed me down.
I had considerable pain in my back.
Really felt the pain. I mean, in my ankles and in my heels.
I'm telling you about something that's gonna change your life. It has revived me.
This works.
I'm not a prisoner anymore to my pain.
As I was getting older, my joints started to feel that wear and tear. But then I tried Omega XL, and it changed my life. Today I'm here at my ranch exercising some of my polo ponies. So as you get older, it gets tougher. I was starting to suffer some of that business, and then I ran into somebody who said, look, you should try Omega XL. And look what it's done. I feel better than I felt in the last 30 years. And Omega XL gave me the ability to get back in the saddle. It works great. If you're in pain, I want you to know that there is real hope out there. I'm living proof. See the difference it can make in your life, just like it did in mine.
Call now or order online to receive our special TV offer. Buy one bottle of Omega XL and get a second free. Plus, we'll also include a free bottle of Vitamin XL D3. 2 free bottles for the price of 1 bottle of Omega XL. A total value of $115. You pay only $49.95 and it ships free. Plus, you get a money-back guarantee. Buy one, get 2 free. Call or go online right now.
We come from a long line of farmers, and there's a sense of pride with being part of these multi-generational businesses. But there's also a significant amount of pressure. My senior year of high school, my dad made the decision that this world no longer needed him in it. I don't know if he was overwhelmed by the bills and checks that weren't going to be coming in because of the strawberries dying off, but it breaks my heart that my dad made a permanent decision for a temporary issue. Don't feel like you have to go through it alone.
Farmers have to take care of their physical and their mental health, because what's a farm without a farmer?
In the mornings, that's my time. Watching the sun come up, I can have a cup of coffee and exercise if I want to. It helps me start the day with a sense of gratitude.
Yay!
Every day is a new opportunity. Don't forget to check in on yourself. Love your mind.
Welcome back to NTD Good Morning. Prosecutors have begun presenting evidence in the murder case of Turning Point USA founder Charlie Kirk.
They argue there is enough evidence for the accused gunman to stand trial. NTD's Daniel Monahan has more on the preliminary hearings that are expected to last through the week in Utah.
The hearing is giving the public its first detailed look at the prosecution's evidence. State District Judge Tony Graff Jr. will decide whether the aggravated murder case against 23-year-old Tyler Robinson should move forward to trial.
Robinson has not entered a plea and could face the death penalty if convicted.
A university police officer testified that he heard a single gunshot and saw Kirk collapse.
A lot of people were screaming, standing up, and starting to run in all different directions away from the center of the tent. I realized that the shot I heard was more of a rifle shot and not a pistol shot.
The officer worked to secure the scene as people fled in panic.
I decided now we need to contain the scene and help preserve as much evidence as we can. So I started pushing people off the grass, out of the courtyard area, because I knew that's where the crime scene was.
The officer told the court he later climbed onto the roof of the university's Lucy Center, where he described finding what appeared to be a sniper pad, including elbow, knee, and foot impressions in the gravel, along with marks indicating where a rifle had been placed. He said his body camera stopped recording when he was on the roof. He believes his battery died. Officers say surveillance video tied the suspect to the scene on the day of the shooting.
We were able to establish that Mr. Robinson had been on campus approximately 4 times throughout the day, twice before the shooting, the time of the shooting, and then after the shooting later in the evening into the early hours of the 11th.
Jurors also heard that surveillance video allegedly showed a man police identified as Robinson running across the roof before climbing down the building. Investigators testified they found a shoe print below the building, scratch marks on the wall, and later recovered a rifle and ammunition hidden in a nearby wooded area. Prosecutors say forensic testing found Robinson's DNA on the rifle, ammunition, and a towel. Messages on the cartridges in the rifle provided insight into a possible motive. The phrase on one cartridge referenced online furry and role-play culture. Another read, "Hey fascist, catch." Robinson's mother previously told investigators that Robinson's political beliefs had been leaning to the left and, quote, becoming more pro-gay and trans rights oriented, according to the documents. Kirk's widow, Erica Kirk, attended the hearing with the victim's family. She says the family is deeply grateful for the support, prayers, and kindness, and asked for continued privacy as they grieve and the legal process moves forward.
The proceedings are scheduled to continue through Friday. Daniel Monahan, NTD News.
Thank you, Daniel. A possible shakeup in the race for a U.S. Senate seat in Maine. Democratic leaders are calling for Graham Platner to exit the race after an allegation of sexual assault.
Platner, he is the embattled Democratic nominee. He's facing Republican incumbent Senator Susan Collins. Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer and Senator Kirsten Gillibrand, they're now asking Platner to step down. Gillibrand, she chairs the Democratic Senatorial Campaign Committee. She called the allegations, quote, incredibly disturbing.
This comes as Platner denies a Politico report alleging he sexually assaulted a woman while he was intoxicated. The accusation was made by 41-year-old Maine resident Jenny Rassicott. According to Politico, the alleged incident took place 5 years ago when she was in a relationship with Platner.
Platner says he is now considering how to move forward with his campaign. In a video statement on X, he says, quote, any accusation of non-consensual behavior is categorically false.
Senator Ruben Gallego, who earlier supported Platner, is pulling back his endorsement, saying the allegations are troubling and deeply serious. Senator Elizabeth Warren is also asking him to step aside, saying there can be no tolerance for sexual assault.
Maine's Democratic Party leadership is also calling on Platner to withdraw, and the Senate Majority PAC announced it is redirecting its resources away now from the race. And there is a lot at stake for Democrats in this race. Maine is a Senate seat that they are eyeing as must win in their effort to take control of the Senate.
The deadline for candidates to drop out with time for the party to replace a nominee is July 13th.
That's right. We'll keep you updated on this rapidly developing story up in Maine.
Next, an illegal immigrant truck driver is charged in the death of a Pennsylvania state trooper.
The Department of Homeland Security says the suspect entered the country illegally back in 2024, received a commercial driver's license from Massachusetts 1 year later. NTD correspondent Jason Blair has more on that.
He was a good man, and he was a good cop, and he was taken from us far too soon.
Pennsylvania State Trooper Michael Pahara Jr. died after he was hit by a truck on the side of Interstate 81 during a commercial vehicle inspection.
He had just moved back in with his folks because his mom is battling cancer, and he wanted to be closer to her.
The Department of Homeland Security says the truck driver, 33-year-old Michael Bond, is an illegal immigrant from Haiti. Bond is charged with homicide by a vehicle, involuntary manslaughter, reckless driving, and other counts. He's being held on a $700,000 bail. Immigration and Customs Enforcement has lodged a detainer asking Pennsylvania officials not to release him. Acting Assistant Secretary of Homeland Security Lauren Biss said in a statement, this Haitian illegal alien was released into our country by the Biden administration, and the sanctuary state of Massachusetts gave him a commercial driver's license. Illegal aliens should not be driving trucks on American highways. Our hearts and prayers go out to his family. Former DHS Deputy Assistant Secretary Jonathan Fahey tells Fox that giving commercial driver's licenses to illegal immigrants is hazardous.
I think there's been about 17 of these fatal crashes just last year involving illegal aliens driving CDLs, and it really just shows how dangerous it is.
Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy posted, these senseless tragedies are why I am working my heart out to change the policies that encouraged illegal drivers, enabled shady truck schools, and drove down the wages for American truckers. Duffy and the Department of Transportation have been tightening restrictions on commercial driver's licenses throughout the nation. Crash suspect Michael Bond's next court date is July 15th. Reporting in Washington, D.C., Jason Blair, NTD News.
And as we've been reporting all morning, President Trump, of course, is in Ankara, Turkey there for the NATO summit, and he is at the Turkish presidential complex for a welcoming ceremony. before these high-stakes NATO summit that is going to kick off today. And there you can see them. Quite a welcome for the president. He is there with President Erdogan, and we don't have a live feed of the audio. And also, NTD's Iris Tao is also there, and she'll be sending us reports throughout the day. There's a packed agenda, really, for the president. It's not just specific to Europe. As we pomp and circumstance with these welcomes. There's a huge band reception, and they've laid out a big blue carpet instead of a red carpet, as is customary. I guess the light blue is the color they use in Turkey for VIP guests. And
looking quite beautiful there with the array of formalities. And as we can see, the president of Turkey, Tayyip Erdogan, there, and President Trump saying that he received a call directly from the president asking him and inviting him to join this summit today and this week, and that's a key reason that he's there. So they're expected to have a meeting of consequence as well.
That's right.
We'll be seeing what comes out of that, but there's quite a few also on the sidelines meeting with the president of Syria, and he'll be speaking, of course, with Zelensky of Ukraine.
And a big part of the meeting with Erdogan is bringing Turkey back into the U.S. fighter plane program, something that the president sort of foreshadowed before he went. He said that he would be giving something that President Erdogan would be pleased with, and most observers believe that that is what he was teasing and referencing, bringing them into the superior technology of the U.S. fighter jet program.
And if indeed Turkey does make a move more towards the U.S., more towards the NATO alliance, away from Russia, away potentially from the Islamist world within the Middle East, that could present a real shift globally in the dynamics that Trump is reworking here, especially considering Russia's numbers and figures now in the war and in its war against Ukraine, really losing a lot of soldiers every day. It's a high cost to Russia, and as we heard earlier, President Putin seems very much still bent on continuing that, but at the same time would be degrading, if things continue, degrading Russia's resources, both internally and its ability to strike back. But alongside that, Turkey will be an important part here, it looks like, of Trump's strategy.
Yeah, how the world has changed so much in the 10 years since President's very first NATO summit. He was sort of ridiculed for telling them all that they needed to put more emphasis on defense spending. And then, of course, unfortunately, he was proven right when Russia's aggressions toward its neighbor began rattling all of those out of their slumber, that there was an existential threat right on their border. And President Trump, as he's threatened to pull some resources from Europe in the traditional base that they have in the European allies, he is talking about strengthening U.S. forces in places like Poland. And of course, Poland right there, right on the doorstep of Russia and Ukraine. Some of the drones have even crossed into Polish airspace. So certainly Putin has done a fair amount of saber rattling. And of course, right on the eve of this NATO summit, another deadly attack on Kyiv with civilian casualties.
Yeah.
I think Moscow has been surprised by the efficacy of the Ukrainian drone attacks, which are now going right at the gas infrastructure of Russia.
Yeah.
We saw some reports yesterday of drivers waiting in hour-long lines to fill up their gas tanks inside of Russia. But somehow Putin quite insulated from the common person in Russia and continues to wage war, though in a much weakened position perhaps than he was just a year ago, as Ukraine's drone offensive has been quite effective.
And shaking hands there with Tayyip Erdogan, pausing for the press in that very beautiful ceremony to welcome President Trump to Ankara for the NATO summit.
And it looks like now, after that nice reception, they're now going into the presidential complex there in the capital of Turkey, where they will have their bilateral meeting on the eve of the full NATO summit.
We'll be keeping you updated, of course, as more comes out.
And up ahead, we bring you the results of the U.S. men's soccer team's World Cup. Of course, unless you're under a rock, you know that that dream run has now come to an end in front of that home crowd in Seattle. And the same for Portugal star Cristiano Ronaldo. He's played in 6 World Cups, but also with a loss to Spain. So we'll be bringing you more on that coming up shortly.
And President Trump officially launching Trump Accounts, a new investment program aimed at giving millions of American children a financial head start. That's ahead.
That's right. Yeah, the White House says major companies are all backing the effort. Let's take a deeper dive into the Trump Accounts now.
So ring the bell, Mr. President.
President Trump officially launching the new Trump Accounts program with a first-of-its-kind ceremony inside the Oval Office. The president ringing a specially designed bell to simultaneously open trading at both the New York Stock Exchange and NASDAQ.
On Saturday, July 4th, our administration deposited one-time seed contributions of $1,000 each into the Trump accounts of over 500,000 American children.
Those born between 2025 and 2028 will be eligible for the $1,000 contribution. Family members, employers, and others can contribute up to $5,000 a year.
Children that are born without money, without any money, great parents, they can have everything, can be great, but they have no money. They can become very wealthy children at 18. Trump accounts are about giving every American child a stake in America's future.
The White House is also encouraging private companies and philanthropists to help grow the program.
The Trump Accounts is also a call to action by President Trump to philanthropists, to corporations and companies across America. We've already seen over 50 corporations, major companies, from Intel to Chipotle to other companies that have, to answer that call to action, are going to contribute to the Trump accounts of their employees.
Dell founder Michael Dell speaking alongside the president at the White House.
42 years ago, I started a company in my dorm room with $1,000. And today, every newborn American child will start their life with $1,000 invested in America's greatest companies. Susan and I didn't want the children that were born just before to be completely left out. So we are contributing $6.25 billion, $250 to 25 million eligible American children born between the ages of 2016 and 2024.
SpaceX President Gwynne Shotwell announcing she and her husband will donate over $300 million in company stock to help fund accounts for more than 2 million children. President Trump says the accounts are intended to promote financial literacy and entrepreneurship.
It's going to teach children to be entrepreneurial as opposed to the threat of communism that you're seeing a lot.
Speaking later at a White House luncheon, the president said every newborn will now have an opportunity to participate in the market from day one.
With Trump accounts, every newborn child will be invested in the stock market. So they're going to be watching. They're going to watch their account grow. They're going to watch the country grow. They're going to be reading the newspapers. They'll want to go to the financial pages.
The president says the program is meant to help reverse years of economic hardship for American families.
For years, Washington politicians have left our children with nothing but debt, nothing but problems. Now, with the help of so many of you here today, we're jumpstarting financial freedom for young Americans and helping them to build the future they deserve.
Meanwhile, President Trump says Walmart has agreed to lower prices on a range of products after a request from his administration tied to the America's 250th anniversary. Walmart says the price of its ground beef rolls will drop about 12% from $6.74 to $5.94 per pound. President Trump says he's also pushing for lower gasoline prices, arguing falling crude oil costs should translate into savings at the pump.
The Supreme Court has declined to block a Texas law. It requires app stores and developers to verify users' ages and obtain parental consent before minors can download apps or make purchases. The justices issued unsigned orders yesterday allowing the law to remain in effect while legal challenges continue. The law requires accounts for users under 18 to be linked to a parent or guardian who must approve the app downloads after receiving age rating verification. Tech industry groups and students argue the measure violates First Amendment free speech protections. Texas officials say the law protects children and argue it supports parents' rights to make decisions about their children's online activity.
And coming up, the U.S. men's soccer team's World Cup dream, unfortunately, it has come to an end in front of a home crowd in Seattle. In the same for Portugal star Cristiano Ronaldo.
We have a friend of the show, Mike Leon, in studio to break down the action.
The 8th NTD International Piano Competition welcomes distinguished pianists from around the world, celebrating the depth, discipline, and expressive power of the Baroque, classical, and romantic repertoire. September 1st through the 5th, 2026, New York City. Apply at piano.ntdtv.com, honoring the timeless tradition of the piano.
大提琴不仅仅是一件乐器，它是有生命、有感情的，需要我们精心的照顾。往往我们一个小小的动作，可能都会对人情绪产生微妙的影响。天音的品牌是福星，我们对于传统的理念很荣幸被神韵艺术团选为指定供应商。时间是酿造音色的不可替代的陪伴。我跟大提琴已经有60多年的友情了，每一把琴都有它自己的个性，熟悉它，才能真正发挥它的潜力。所以，我希望给你的每一把琴，都是首先我所信任的。
Looking to update your dining room? Come to Mathis Home today, where you have the freedom to save on everything in the store. Check out our huge selection of dining sets, many specially priced at just $8.97. Whatever your style, we've got a look you'll love. Each of these sets include the table and 4 side chairs, available in dining or pub height with a variety of finishes and tops. Pick your favorite, just $8.97. They're all in stock with fast, free delivery. Freedom to choose and freedom to save at your furniture superstore, Mathis Home.
We're going to send you now live to Turkey, where President Trump is joined by President Erdogan in Ankara. Let's go live there now.
Somebody to be reckoned with, and the nice part is that because of the relationship that we have, it's all gone very well. I just want to say that I have respect for the president, and I think it's really to the benefit of both countries. We're going to be talking today about trade. We're going to be talking about other things having to do with the military, lots of different things. Probably decimated their military. They cannot have a nuclear weapon. And we're going to have some very good discussions. But we do a lot of trade with Turkey. Probably will mention Iran, where we have essentially decimated their military. They cannot have a nuclear weapon. And we're going to have some very good discussions. But we do a lot of trade with Turkey. We make great things, and they make great things. And we've had it's had a very big impact on both of our countries. So I just want to tell you that it's an honor to be with you. And we're going to have a lot of good meetings. We're going to have good dinners, good food. We're going to have a good time, but mostly we're going to have a lot of work, and we're going to do good things for our countries. Thank you very much, Mr. President.
Thank you.
Sayın Cumhurbaşkanım, havama kadar geldiniz. Çok teşekkür ediyoruz o yüzden. Çok uzun süren bir dostluğumuz var biliyorsunuz. Son derece saygı duyduğum, yakın bulduğum bir insansınız. Buradaki buluşmalarımızda, görüşmelerimizde 3 konudan bahsedeceğiz. Askeri, ticari ve bir de İran konusundan bahsedeceğiz. Gerçekten çok güçlüsünüz. Çok güçlü askeri ve silah sanayi açısından çok güçlü bir yerdesiniz şu anda. Dolayısıyla teşekkür ediyorum ve çok iyi bir vakit geçirdiğinize inanıyorum.
Thank you.
Very much.
Okay.
Mr. President, are you going to sell F-35s to Turkey, and what about the legal restrictions?
Well, it's a decision we're going to make. We have a very good relationship. I would think that many people, I can tell you, many people, including the people sitting right here, thinks, why wouldn't we do that? We have a better relationship with Turkey, and Turkey's been in many ways much more loyal than other countries that we think would be loyal. So, yeah, it's something certainly we would consider. It's a great plane. It's the best, currently the best plane by far. And it's certainly something we will consider, yeah. Yes, Daniel, please. You never know why a relationship is special. Some people you get along with, and some people you don't. Sometimes you get along with the toughest people, like him, and sometimes you don't get along with the weakest, most pathetic people. You just don't get along. Maybe you don't respect them, but from the day we met, we got along. We had a pastor, as I remember, his name was Pastor Brunson, and it was a very big thing, and it was very traumatic. He was sentenced to a long-term prison sentence, and I felt he was innocent, and I called. Other people called. They got nowhere. I called the president, and he released him immediately. It was something that the evangelical community will never forget, and because he was a good man, Pastor Brunson. So, just things like that, we just it's always worked out. And I think it's been from the very beginning, from the first moment. I said it before, it's a chemistry that works between us. There are those that I don't have a good chemistry with, I will tell you that. And we work that out too.
Mr. President, are further drawdowns in Europe are you likely to announce further troop drawdowns in Europe?
Say it?
Are further troop drawdowns in Europe likely? And are you satisfied with the progress that NATO allies have made?
Well, we're going to see. I was very disappointed with NATO. And frankly, if it weren't held in Turkey, where my friend happens to be a very strong leader, a very strong person, it's possible that I wouldn't have attended. I felt I had to attend because of the fact that, I know he's gone all out. It was a big thing to have NATO come to Turkey or any place else. It's a big thing. But we weren't treated well because we did something in Iran. We don't need anybody's help. I didn't even want their help. But before I asked, they said they wouldn't be there. And we've invested trillions of dollars in NATO. Why? To protect European countries and others, Canada, etc., but to protect people, countries from, generally speaking, it used to be the Soviet Union, now it's Russia. And I say that's fine, but you would think that they'd be very willing to do something to help us, and they really weren't. In the case of the United Kingdom, the Prime Minister, I guess he's no longer there, maybe because of this. It was a very unpopular thing he did. He said, no, we'll help after the war is over. I said, I don't need that kind of help. We didn't need any help at all. And in a way, I was testing people. I was testing to see whether or not they'd be there, because I've long said that we help them, but I'm not sure that they'd be there for us. And Italy turned us down, and Germany turned us down, and France turned us down. And that's okay. But, you know, why are we spending hundreds of billions of dollars and they're not there for us? We've always been there for them.
Türkiye ile Suriye arasında Türkiye'de efendim
İran'daki savaşın sona erdirilmesi için oldukça çaba sarf ettiniz. Müzakere süreci devam ediyor ancak nihai bir anlaşma noktasına gelinmiş değil. Bundan sonraki süreçte Türkiye nasıl adımlar atacak İran ve ABD arasındaki müzakere sürecinin olumlu bir şekilde neticelenmesi için?
Bu süreçte yine aynı şekilde bizler İran-Amerika ilişkilerini nasıl bir düzleme kavuştururuz? Onun gayreti içerisindeyiz. Elimizden geleni yapmak suretiyle dünya barışına bir adım atalım diye gerek şahsım gerek arkadaşlarım hep birlikte çalışacağız.
Gazze'ye sormak isterim ben sizlere. 80 bine yakın insan hayatını kaybetti Gazze'de. Çok büyük de bir yıkım var. Ateşkes sağlandı ama yer ihlaller devam ediyor. Ateşkes ihlallerinin önlenmesi için, insani yardımların Gazze'ye girebilmesi için, ayrıca Gazze'nin yeniden inşa edilebilmesi için önümüzdeki süreçte ortak atabileceğiniz adımları değerlendirecek misiniz muhatabınızla? Müsaade buyururlarsa kendisinin de bu konudaki fikirlerini almak isteriz. Teşekkür ederiz efendim.
Özellikle Gazze konusunda tabii değerli dostumla bunları da konuşarak özellikle bu bölgedeki barışı sağlama için bu liderler zirvesini çok önemsiyoruz ve bu liderler zirvesinden aynı şekilde bir kararın çıkmasını da hayra yorumluyoruz ve bunun olabileceğine de ben ihtimal veriyorum.
Efendim, Türkiye-ABD ilişkilerinin geliştiği bir dönemi gözlemliyoruz. 2025 yılında geçen yıl Amerika Birleşik Devletleri'ne yaptığınız ziyarette önemli ticari anlaşmalar da imzalandı. Suriye konusunda Türkiye'nin önemli bir aktör olduğunu söylemişti Sayın ABD Başkanı. Şimdi yeni dönemde gelmeden önce de Sayın Trump bir sürprizle geliyorum ifadesini kullandı. F-35'i, Kaan savaş uçaklarının motorlarını konuştuk. Acaba gündeme gelebilir mi şeklinde. Siz bu sürprizin ne olduğunu düşünüyorsunuz? Türkiye bugünkü görüşmelerden sonra istediğini alabilecek mi? Teşekkür ederim.
Tabii F-35 konusu biliyorsunuz bizim için yeni bir konu değil ve bunu bizler Amerika ile daha önce de görüştük ve biz 5 uçağı da sözünü aldık ve Sayın Trump'ın bu konuda bize ayrıca sözü var ve şimdi de bu liderler zirvesinde yapacağımız görüşmelerde F-35 ile ilgili kendilerinden bu daha önce aldığımız sözün ben geleceğe yönelik olumlu şekilde test ettiğimizi biliyorum ve bu konuda da Sayın Trump her zaman sözünün arkasındadır. Burada yine inşallah F-35 konusunda bu liderler zirvesinden hayırlı bir karar çıkacağına inanıyorum.
What does that mean?
Is it going to be handed over to a third party? Is that not part of the deal?
Third party? What is the third, with respect to what?
There's our concerns about the Russian missile defense system. Do you have those concerns about this system? Are they going
I
to
have no concerns at all about anything. I mean, he's a leader of a country that he's made a much better country, much more powerful country, and you see it. I mean, it's beautiful. You get off, the roads are beautiful. It's an amazing thing. Now, I have no concerns about anything having to do with Turkey. The relationship, I would say the relationship with Turkey right now is better probably than it's ever been. It was good in my first 4 years, but I think now it's probably even better than that, if that's possible.
Sir, U.S. military and Turkish military constitute a really strong and large military base for NATO. Are we expecting further defense cooperation out of this bilateral meeting, out of this NATO summit here in Ankara?
Well, we're going to find out when I go there. We're going to find out. We're going to be having meetings. I'm very friendly with many of the leaders. You know, some of them are new. We don't know them. But, you know, I've been doing this for now sort of a long time. If you count the 4 years where we had a rigged election, you know, I was very much into politics then, too. But I spent the first 4 years, I spent 4 years in a little different state. And then we've had an amazing, probably the best year maybe ever had by an American president. When you look at the economy, we have the greatest economy we've ever had. We have $19 trillion, $19.2 trillion to be exact, being invested in the United States. That's 7 or 8 times more than it's ever had. It's a world record, not just a U.S. record. And I just read where, in fact, coming over, I was in the car with those beautiful horses, those great riders, those great soldiers, and it came over the wires that Toyota is moving out of Mexico into the United States and building one of the biggest truck and car plants ever built. It's amazing. That's what tariffs do, if properly used. And so we've never had a more exceptional economy or potential economy. There's never been anything like it. Under the last administration, they did much less than $1 trillion of investment coming in. And we're at $19.2 trillion in actually the first 12 months, because that's where it's, you know, really. So we're there a year and a half, so that number is now substantially higher. But 19.2 trillion, Scott, for a period of 12 months. Nobody's ever seen anything like that. So we have by far the greatest economy. We have more jobs right now in the United States than ever before. And we have a great relationship with some countries on trade, and Turkey happens to be one of them.
Siz her fırsatta dünya 5'ten büyüktür, daha acil bir dünya mümkün tutuyorsunuz. Bugün konuğumuz Sayın Trump, ABD Başkanı. Onun da zaman zaman küresel sistemin mevcut durumuna ilişkin eleştirilerini biliyoruz. NATO'nun 2 en büyük askeri gücü olarak bu noktada, bu eleştiriler doğrultusunda ortak bir adım, ortak bir girişimde bulunması önümüzdeki süreçte söz konusu olabilir mi?
NATO'da 2 önemli ülke olarak gerek Amerika gerekse Türkiye, bizler bu liderler zirvesinden de dayanışma içerisinde güçlü bir çıkışı sağlayacağız ve bunu da başaracağımıza inanıyorum.
Başından bu yana ara buluculuk tesis ettiğiniz, 2 ülkenin dışişleri bakanlarını Antalya Diplomasi Forumu'nda bir araya getirdiniz. İstanbul'da çok önemli müzakereler yürüttünüz. Bu zirve kapsamında da Sayın Trump'ın Sayın Zelenski ile görüşeceğini biliyoruz.
And while this question is read in Turkish, you can see President Trump highlighting the strength of the relationship that he has with President Erdogan, contrasting it to leaders that he says he has less chemistry with and that he views potentially as weaker. And he mentioned what happened with Starmer leaving a leadership post in the UK, and then highlighting the U.S. economy.
And also an interesting development here, the president saying the U.S. would consider selling the F-35 fighter jets to Turkey, which of course would require more ongoing negotiation and other players weighing in within the U.S. But that now officially on a possibility in the agenda.
Yeah, he said from the very get-go, when he first met President Erdogan, he requested the release of an evangelical pastor, and President Erdogan did follow through on that. And he said from that moment forward, they have enjoyed a congenial relationship and based on mutual respect.
Looking here like the president is going with his negotiation strategy of showing the leaders of various nations that they can thrive if they align themselves with the U.S.
And now we're going to go back to President Trump. I believe this question should be coming up in English shortly.
Herhalde liderler zirvesinde kendisine teşekkür edeceğiz.
You know, I might add that Turkey bought planes. It's the best plane. But they bought planes from the United States. And when you buy a plane from the United States, if there's engine rehab and other things that are done to engines, there's various things that happen, including just maintenance. I think we have an obligation to maintain engines and help them maintain engines. When you buy a plane from us, what are we going to say? You're buying a plane if the engine needs work or if the engine has to be rehabilitated or even upgraded somewhat. But I think we have an obligation to do that. What are you going to do? Say, I'm not going to do that? Look, Turkey's been, I know, a lot of people don't agree, although I think with time they're starting to. Turkey has been a great ally for us. Turkey could have gone on the side. They know Iran very well, and they know the problems with Iran. But they've been very instrumental, along with a couple of other countries, of helping. They could have gotten into the fight. I hear some people saying about their relationship with Israel. They could have gotten into the fight. They're a very powerful military nation. They didn't do that. Maybe they didn't do that because of me. But they could have gotten into the fight on the other side. They are a nation that's been very, very good. And I can speak for myself as president. They've been extraordinary in many ways with respect to our relationship, including trying to end the war with Iran, or whatever you call it. It's not even a war, it's a military operation. It's a denuclearization. That's really what it is, of Iran, because I don't think he wants to see them have a nuclear weapon either. I'm pretty sure of that. In fact, I'm totally sure of that. So, but when they buy a product from us, whether it's a plane or anything else, when it's time for maintenance, I think don't we have an obligation to help them? What are we going to do? Say we're not going to let you use the product that you spent a lot of money in buying? And especially when it's been somebody that frankly has been more helpful to the United States than many other more traditional countries. I do. I had a very good talk with President Putin, who, by the way, has a lot of respect for President Erdogan, a lot of respect for him. We had a long talk yesterday. It lasted a long time. And I also spoke with President Zelensky right after that. I think they both want to make a deal. It's too bad it took so long. But I think there's going to be something's going to come out. And the president's also helping us with that. But I think there's something. I settled 8 wars, and I think we're going to be settling a 9th. It doesn't seem likely now, but sometimes with war, I see when it's least likely, that's when it happens. I had a very good talk with President Putin. I had a very good talk with, I would say, as a combination. A lot of times I'd do well with Putin, and Zelensky would be a problem, or vice versa. Zelensky would be great, and Putin would be. They both want to get it settled now. More than that, that's all I do in my life is deals. I know deals. And I think I think we're going to get it settled, hopefully soon. Last month, 35,000, mostly soldiers, died. The month before that, it was 24,000. The month before that, it was 27,000. And the month before that, it was 29,000. But last month, there was 35,000 young soldiers, mostly soldiers, died. And that's crazy.
Ancak savunma sanayi işbirliğimizi sürdürebilmemiz için Amerika'nın katsa yaptırımlarını da kaldırmış olması gerekiyor. Sayın Büyükelçi Barak burada. Kendisinin bu konuda aslında mesajları da oldu geçtiğimiz aylarda. Sayın Başkan'ın da bu konuda olumlu düşündüğünü biliyoruz. Hem ticaret hacmi hedefine ulaşmak hem de NATO zirvesinde burada Sayın Trump gelmeden önce de açıkladılar. Aslında Türkiye'nin hatırıyla zirveye katıldığını da açıkladılar ama aynı zamanda katsa yaptırımlarının Türkiye'ye uygulanıyor olmasının bir tezat olduğu düşünülüyor. Bu noktada, bu görüşmede artık somut bir netice alınabilir mi? Ayrıca siz bunu gündeme taşıyacaksınızdır. Muhtemelen Sayın Başkan'ın da bu konudaki düşünceleri de alabilirsem mutlu olurum. Teşekkür ediyorum.
I can tell you, we're going to be taking the sanctions off. Okay? I don't want him to waste his time answering that question because we're working very closely with Marco Rubio, a very famous man, great Secretary of State, and with Scott Bessent, and with Pete and everybody else. We're going to be taking the sanctions off. It's time to do that. Okay? We don't want to sanction friends. It's very simple. There's plenty of people we can sanction, and we are sanctioned. We don't want to sanction friends. And because of the president, you know, we have a very good relationship with the new leader of Syria, and he's done an amazing job. In a year and a half, he's pulled the whole country together. And I have a very great relationship with him. And somebody said, well, he's pretty rough to put him there. I approved him along with the president. We were the two that really wanted him. And he's done a great job. He's done a great job. He's pulled it together. Not an easy job.
Media post yesterday with respect to Prime Minister Maloney, that True Social post with the restraining order.
Oh, I don't know. I think she's a nice person, actually. We've had a good, we had a bad relationship. It became a little bad because she refused to help us. Again, I didn't put a heavy press on her, but she refused to get involved with the Hormuz Strait, or you could also say just Iran. She refused to get involved. So it soured my relationship with her a little bit. But I like her. I think she's a nice person, actually. But I think she made a mistake. You know, they get a lot of their oil from, we don't get any of our, we have a lot of oil. The United States has more oil than anybody. And when you add Venezuela to it, it's like we have far more oil than anybody. We don't need the straits. We do this because we think it's an important thing to do. But she just wasn't there for us. And I wasn't happy about that. You can imagine, I wasn't happy about that.
Why do you think that? What conditions have changed? Did Putin seem...
About with what?
Russia, Ukraine. Did Putin seem open to any concessions that he
Never
had?
changed. I just don't want him killing people. You know, it doesn't affect the United States. When Biden was here, he gave them hundreds of billions of dollars worth of equipment. Now I sell the equipment for, you know, fair price, full price. And I sell it not to Ukraine, I sell it to the European Union. They pay us. But with me, it's not anything to do other than I'd like to save lives. You have 25, 35, 30. One time it hit 41,000 a month souls. They're dead. They leave their mother in Ukraine. They leave their mother and father in Russia, Ukraine. They wave goodbye. And a week later, they're dead. It's crazy. And I would like to see. It doesn't affect us. It's really, you know, it's far away. It affects Europe much more. We're there to help Europe, but it doesn't affect the United States. We have an ocean in between. But, you know, it's just, I can't stand watching what's happening. I've seen the pictures of those battlefields, and it's a drone war. It's a war of drones. It's a whole new technology. And we're actually the leader in drones now. We have the most sophisticated drones, but people wouldn't believe how violent it is. And I've seen the battlefields. They send me pictures. I actually want to say, don't send them to me. Pete, this man right here sends me pictures. Pete Hegseth. And I said, Pete, you know what? Doesn't help to look. I've never seen anything like it. It's carnage. And it should stop.
Open to any concessions intentions to end the war in your call with him?
I get along very well with both, and we're going to get it settled. And President Erdogan's helping us get it settled, as he's helping with Iran. With respect to what? Well, that's what hurt my relationship with NATO, because Greenland doesn't help Denmark. Denmark doesn't spend money to really help Greenland, but it's an important part for the United States. And it's surrounded by China ships and Russian ships. And that's not going to happen. The ships it's not going to happen. It was Greenland that, and it continues to be, that should be controlled by the United States, not by Denmark. And when they wouldn't go along with it, and with all the money we spend to help them with Russia, and we don't have to spend any money, we could remove all of our soldiers out of Europe. Because as you probably noticed, Europe's a very different place than it was 20 years ago. A lot different, much different. It's a much different, and they better be careful with immigration and energy. If they're not careful with those two things, you're not going to have a Europe anymore. Okay, thank you very much, everybody.
Değerli arkadaşlar,
President Trump there in bilateral talks with Turkish President Tayyip Erdogan and speaking to the press. A few extra developments here. The president saying that he really believes that Erdogan will help in negotiations with both the conflict in Iran and in Ukraine and Russia.
Yeah, the president highlighting that the war with Russia-Ukraine really more of a European problem. There's a big ocean in the middle guaranteeing the U.S. safety, but that the reports that he gets from Secretary of War Hegseth are really heartbreaking when they see the loss of life, anywhere from 25 to 35,000, mostly soldiers, he highlighted, dying every month, and that he just wants the war to end. And he says that he feels like they're closer now than they have been in a long time. He said it's been hard to get Putin and Zelensky timed at the same time where they both really want to move forward with the deal. And he says he feels like that moment is afoot. And he says he's optimistic that that will be coming soon, something that I think a big focus, of course, over these NATO meetings is bringing that war that's really right there on the doorstep of NATO allies like Poland, and of course Turkey not far from that as well.
All right, up ahead.
We have U.S. men's soccer team's World Cup dream, unfortunately, coming to an end in front of a home crowd in Seattle. And the same for Portugal star Cristiano Ronaldo.
And of course, we've got friend of the show, Mike Leon, in the studio to break the action down.
You see certain things get reincarnated in your children. My daughter is very much inspired by my wife's artistic pursuits. So my daughter started making necklaces. She makes what we call affirmation fashion. I tell her every day that your black is beautiful. Your black is beautiful. Your black is beautiful. And if there's anything better than being beautiful, it's being smart. And if there's anything better than being smart, it's being kind. And reaffirming that every day is our method of making sure her chin never drops. My dad wasn't around, and I remember riding a bike and falling off and cutting myself, and me never just wanting to get back on it. People ask, how your children learn how to ride a bike, and you didn't. I didn't teach them. I just created an environment where they taught themselves, and all I had to do was be there.
We said we'd never give in to a meltdown.
Okay.
And we'd never babysit with a screen. We said we'd never let the toys take over.
Mariella.
Never leave the house looking, well, and never let them out of our sight. Skylar, come here. Cars get hot fast, and kids can be at risk. Before you leave the car, always stop, look, lock.
Every day, thousands of kids start vaping. And I can't let this happen to my kid. Of course, it's awkward to talk to your kids about the dangers of vaping. Hey, bestie, how's sketches? Ready? It's hard to get their attention. Ready? Go. Yes, look at that. You didn't turn yours over. So if you want to talk to your kids about the dangers of vaping, you have to get it trending. Right, Backpack Kid?
Let's do it.
First, invite your kid to do the vape talk. Let's try this. All right.
Why is he here?
Yeah, I gotta get it trending, honey.
Come on.
To the left. To the right. Let's go.
Oh, honey, can we talk?
Yeah, what's up?
I see a lot of your friends vaping.
Visit talkaboutVaping.org for tips on when and how to have the vape talk.
Welcome back to NTD Good Morning. The U.S. men's soccer team inspiring the nation in the lead up to America 250 with their first place group finish, round of 32 win, and leading stadiums full of fans in sing-alongs to the John Denver classic Country Roads.
But last night, the country woke up from the dream as the Belgian soccer team dominated every facet of the round of 16 match in Seattle last night, securing a humbling 4-1 victory. Joining us to discuss the highs and lows of the U.S. men's team and World Cup fever is Mike Leon, head of content for The Zone and host of the Can We Please Talk podcast. Great to have you with us,
hey
Mike.
Guys. Sorry about last night,
I
America.
know,
Don't worry about it, America. We'll be back.
Okay.
4 more years.
I hope so.
Yeah.
But your overall observations of last night?
Yeah, I mean, well, first off, Seattle's a great city to have this, you know, for people that live up there in the Northwest, the Seattle Sounders, Portland Timbers of Major League Soccer, they have a huge rivalry. So it's a big soccer town. So it sucks that it ended in one of the cities where you would think they would get the boost and the jolt from. But I also think that there's some solace in this in that they did play a top 10, 15 squad in Belgium. Belgium has had the U.S.'s number for a while. There was some individual performances that were a little bit, left a lot to be desired on the pitch. But U.S. soccer, this is the ceiling. I know a lot of people today are doing reflective pieces across all these different outlets. Are we ever going to be good? Are we going to? Things have to change structurally for all of that to happen. And these other countries have hundreds of years of head start. I mean, we call it soccer. We don't even call it the right thing. It's football. So we just got to start there. Like, there's a realistic look at it, and they ran into a team that they were not favored against, and they ended up losing.
In terms of the individual performances and efforts, were you a little bit surprised by the U.S.'s performance last night?
Yeah, I was, especially some play from the cornerbacks, Reams, especially in that jump ball situation. I know he's a shorter guy, so it's very tough, somebody 6'4" coming over top of you. I think there are some things that you can do on the back line with that. That's all on the coaching perspective. I also thought, obviously, everyone's going to point to the goalkeeper miscue. That happens. We've seen that in the NFL, Kerry. We've seen kickers, kind of get a little bit of the turf toe and kick the turf prior to kicking it. Why are you playing around with it? Pass it on to your... So, I mean, there's just... It was a domino of miscues. And, the U.S., we were talking about this in the commercial break, the U.S. scored, I think, in the 30th, 31st minute. Crowd is electric. A minute 30 later, Belgium scores. Crowd back down to 0. U.S. was always playing catch up in the game, giving up the goal within the first 6 minutes. So there was a lot to go around in terms of blame, Kerry, unfortunately.
Okay, so while it stings and you've outlined some of the reasons, but are there any positives that you see from U.S. men's soccer?
Yeah, I mean, look, the first thing foremost, like if we celebrate immigration in this country, we have a lot of, European influence. Obviously, everyone's making a big deal about the Balogun, and obviously where he's from. He was born here, went back to England. So the fact that we have players that are playing internationally across different leagues is huge. We have a really well-known manager that's leading U.S. soccer at the forefront. So I think those are the positives to take. And also, they played really well in the group stage. You know, outside of the loss to Turkey where they made some lineup changes and it was a 3-2 loss, hard-fought loss, they ran through the group. Sorry, they beat Australia.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, the first game against Paraguay, you know, everyone was pointing to that game, and they resoundingly beat Paraguay 4-1. And then we saw, obviously, what Paraguay did later on as they advanced in the tournament. So there are some positives to take. The U.S. is probably beltline, you know, you got your top 10, 15, and then you've got that middle 15 to 40. They're solidified in that group. It's how do you crack and get up to that upper tier. That's going to take a lot more time than the fans are more patient in.
Yeah, and as you point out, breaking into that top tier, the other game yesterday was a true thriller, and you could see the difference with Spain-Portugal because they just don't make mistakes. It was one moment that really made the difference. It was a beautiful slip pass, and Spain prevailing. What'd you think of that game?
Yeah, Mourinho with that goal there and the late substitution. You know, it's watching that. And this is for people that don't watch soccer and football, by the way. If you truly want to learn a little bit more, watch the way Spain and Portugal operate in the midfield. Watch the way their cornerbacks, those are the people on the back line, left back, right backs, their sweepers. Watch how they all keep possession and play within each other and make calculated runs. Those are things from a technical perspective, that's all taught like in youth soccer programs that are over there. Like they learn these things, they grow up playing together. Whereas here in the US, we tend to fracture and splinter off. We play other sports. And so when you don't play something full time and give it 100%, the continuity is lost. And that's where it's evident on the pitch. And so I love watching Spain because of how they dominate possession. I think Portugal yesterday had to deal with an aging star in Ronaldo who is on his way out, yet he's still one of their key strikers. That's a problem because no other country really has somebody of that age and ilk still there. And they're kind of giving him the seniority because obviously he's the face of Portuguese soccer. Tough for them to go out there, especially the way it happened late in the game. But I always thought Spain was the better team. They do have the better talent and continuity. But for Portugal, another notch in that loss of long Portuguese soccer losses, unfortunately.
Gosh, with all that in mind, let's talk about Cristiano Ronaldo's legacy.
Yeah, a huge legacy. I mean, look, he went to Saudi Arabia and played for the Saudi Arabian league there. And all of a sudden you're getting fans in that part of the world that had never seen him play really start to endear themselves. This guy has played in the English Premier League. Obviously, he's been the face of Portuguese soccer for so long. He's transcended the sports from billboards to advertisements. So it's an incredible career. He's won the Ballon d'Or like a bunch of different times throughout his career. So he's etched his name amongst the pantheon of great soccer players that have kind of graced this planet. But also in Portugal, I mean, you can't go anywhere without seeing the CR7 jerseys everywhere. So he's left a long legacy and impact. He should be proud of that for sure. But I know the World Cup obviously is something, it's going to sting for him not achieving that goal, especially seeing the person they compare him to in Messi because of their ascensions and the similar ages, and Messi winning a World Cup in his last time out back in 2022.
Yeah, almost an unfair comparison when you consider that Argentina has nearly 5 times the population and talent from which to draw from. But you're right, they both are sort of in rarefied air. People would point to Pele and some of these other greats. But really in the modern era, it's really Messi and Ronaldo. But Messi in action today. I'd love for you to preview the 2 games today. We've got Argentina against Egypt and, of course, Colombia and Sweden. What do you think?
Well, we were laughing about this in the commercial break that we're all out of the party, North America, right? U.S., Mexico, Canada, all out, and we're just hosting the South Americans and the Europeans. Well, we've got the 2 best soccer clubs from South America playing today. I think a lot of people have not watched Colombia just because their games have been on late, because they've been on either at 9 p.m., 11 p.m. in some of the group stages. Colombia's got some phenomenal talent. And I think Argentina, obviously, Messi has not shown that same regression that Ronaldo has shown a little bit. Now, they play different positions, but I think Argentina, look, they won the cup last year. They had a little bit of an easier draw in terms of their group stage, and now the teams that they've played so far, whereas the U.S. ran up against, a top 10, 15 team with Belgium. They should get past this. I expect Colombia and Argentina. I expect the South American party to continue and both of those teams to advance. And we have a really good showdown coming up soon because we've got England and Norway in Miami, and that's going to be fun. You're a big rowing person. I saw. I think Steph was out in Times Square recently with the rowers, right? Right after your hit. So you've got the arguably Haaland with how good he is with Norway, and England just coming off of that Mexico win. The World Cup shaping up for a great final group of 8 here.
Yeah, and with the U.S. out, while we're frustrated, we can at least now, we are the host. We could sit back and really appreciate the game, and hopefully with the Olympics in 2 years and then the World Cup at 4.
The Knicks won a title, Kerry. I mean, nothing else should matter for all of us here in New York.
I feel overwhelmed with joy with June sports. It's been quite a summer.
Exactly.
Mike Leon, always a pleasure.
Yeah.
Thanks for joining.
Thanks for having me, guys.
And we do have to end the show here, but if you have any feedback or maybe you got a story tip you'd like to see us cover, why don't you send us an email at goodmorning@ntd.com. We'd love your feedback.
And for round-the-clock original news coverage, watch us live at ntd.com/TV or download our NTD app. I'm Stephanie Cox.
I'm Kerry Dunst. Have a wonderful day.
Dreamed of stepping into the timeless world of classical Chinese dance? Now you can join the Shenyun Arts Proficiency Assessment Center. Build strength, flexibility, and expressive movements